Hi, hello, good morning and welcome to Daily News Analysis by Spardha Lines. Today we have picked up a couple of important articles from the Hindu, the Indian Express and the Deccan Herald newspapers. These are very significant from your KPSC examination point of view. So what are you waiting for? Hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel and also share it with your fellow aspirants as well. Before we start with our today's analysis for the day, we have two important gentle reminders. The first is with respect to the KAS Prelims comes mains classes. We've already started the KAS Prelims come mains classes and we have the best features that we cover in the Prelims come the mains classes. This will include classes by experts and highly qualified faculty. What we will also provide is the current affairs magazine for the prelims come mains, and this current affairs magazine will be both in Kannada as well as English. For those who are opting in English, you will be getting the English magazine, and for those who are opting in Kannada, you will be getting the Kannada magazine. This will include prelims and mains test series which are conducted fortnightly, and this test series can be taken in any of the 12 centers in the state of Karnataka. Let's say for example you have taken one of the tests in Mysuru, subsequently you can also take it in Bengaluru as well. We will have special classes for communication and answer writing skills. There will be one-on-one feedback and the mentorship sessions, daily current affairs tests as well as classes, complimentary access to Spardha Lines statewide monthly current affairs test, DSERT NCERT foundation classes with study material crafted by the experts and course strategically designed by Spardha Lines R&D team as well. So all of this will be included as part of the KAS Prelims comes mains classes. That apart, what we also have is the NCERT foundation course for both the IAS and the KAS examination. The course features includes DSERT and NCERT foundation classes with the study material, classes by subject experts and highly qualified faculty, live online and offline classes, recorded classes available, NCERT and DSERT practice tests, free current affairs magazine which includes both English or Kannada, and course strategically designed by the R&D team of Spardha Lines. So if at all you would want to fall in love with learning and would want to clear on the very first go, all that you have to do is subscribe to our Spardha Lines test series as well as the classroom program. Let's get started and look into the first article for the day. The first article says a privileged strategic partnership without a Gulf. The article here is speaking about the relationship between India and UAE. India and UAE have a very good relationship, and that has been restored, re-emphasized by Prime Minister Narendra Modi is what is this article all about. If we look into the data given under this article, it goes on to say that we have Prime Minister Narendra Modi who is going to make a visit to United Arab Emirates. He will be inaugurating a temple built by Bochaswasi Sri Akshar Purushottam Swami Narayana Samstha in Abu Dhabi. This is Mr. Modi's 7th visit to UAE since 2015 and the third in the last 8 months. So what we have been able to do is ensure that there is cultural revivalism between India and United Arab Emirates. So from 2015, we've had Prime Minister Narendra Modi make frequent visits to United Arab Emirates, and in line with it, in the last 3 months, what we have seen is Prime Minister Narendra Modi make visits 3 times. This reimposes the fact that India and United Arab Emirates have a very good relationship, and that has been restored at the highest level. So you have leaders from both the countries who are making sure that the relationship is intact. This increases to the strategic level as well, and ultimately we have a bridge of differences that are taken off, and ultimately what we have is more bonhomie between India and United Arab Emirates. We also have the United Arab Emirates President who was felicitated in a roadshow when he was in Gandhinagar in January this year as the chief guest of the 10th Vibrant Gujarat Summit. It is not just Prime Minister Narendra Modi making visits to the United Arab Emirates. We also have the converse as well. We also have the UAE President making visit to India, and during one of the roadshows that was conducted because of the Vibrant Gujarat Summit, he was also facilitated in Gandhinagar. This ultimately reimposes faith of both the leaders, where leader from India is making a visit to United Arab Emirates. United Arab Emirates leaders is making mention and they're present in India, and this ultimately reimposes the faith between both the countries. In fact, India and United Arab Emirates have also co-launched one of the initiative called as the Global Green Credit Initiative. What is this Global Green Credit Initiative? This is majorly with reference to water conservation as well as afforestation. What's happening of late is increase in what is called as the climate change manifestations. Whenever we speak about climate change, what exactly happens? There are increasing cases of drought-like conditions, wildfire that is taking place. This also means that there is excessive flood kind of situations that is resulting. If we look into the keen areas, let's say for example in Uttarakhand or in Himachal Pradesh, what we are also witnessing is the flash floods. Are these flash floods and other scenarios, is it only because of the climate change manifestations, or it could be because of other reasons? So how do we understand it? That is through the Global Green Credit Initiative, where focus is based on water conservation as well as afforestation. The Environment Ministry defined the initiative as a market-based mechanism designed to incentivize voluntary environmental actions across diverse sectors by various stakeholders like individuals, communities, private sector industries as well as companies. So this happens to be a voluntary movement. What do you mean by voluntary movement? It means that there is no imposition, coercion or force that is acted upon the individual. So basically, if at all I decide that I have to work on few things as an individual, I should be able to do so because it is a voluntary action and not something which is reimposed, superimposed and subjugated on me. And at the same time, it can be the communities where I go about speaking to a certain section of the people. I bring together a larger section of the community and we ensure that we contribute to the mitigation factors of the climate change factors, which ultimately means that all stakeholders who are present in the society, it can be an individual, it can be a community, it can be a private sector individuals, where you would have is a company, and that company is also wanting to bring a change in the society. For example, it can be Google, or it can be Facebook, or it can be Reliance, or it can be Tata, it can be any company for that matter, where the company has a corporate social responsibility or the society towards or responsibility towards the society, and they would also want to bring some changes as well. For example, we have the Bill Gates Foundation. The Bill Gates Foundation is also involved in couple of programs world over. So if these programs are enabling a certain scientific rationale or investing a lot of money so that we can ultimately bring a cut in the climate change mitigation factors, that is also being taken up. So it is a voluntary movement and not something which is imposed or something which is like forced upon certain section of the people. Under the scheme, green credits will be assigned to specific environmental activities and will be treated as tradable commodities. These green credits will be able to be sold on domestic market platforms. The main purpose of the initiative is to boost voluntary environmental activities like tree plantation, water conservation, sustainable agriculture, waste management by incentivizing it for big corporations and private companies, bringing about a change in the climate issues faced by the country. So this ultimately means that we will have more number of people who will be voluntarily wanting to join this particular initiative and ultimately reduce the climate change manifesting factors. So this is what is called as the Global Green Credit Initiative, which has been undertaken by both India as well as United Arab Emirates. This is on one side. On the other side, if we have to focus on the economy between India and United Arab Emirates, bilateral trade grew to 85 billion in 2020-23, making the UAE India's third largest trading partner and India's second largest export destination as well. The UAE is also the fourth largest overall investor in India. The India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership signed on February 18, 2022 in a record time of 88 days aims to increase trade in services to $115 billion in 5 years. So it is not just the bonhomie. This bonhomie is also turning into trade related numbers as well. If we look into the numbers, bilateral trade grew by 85 billion in 2022 and 23. Followed by this, when it comes to the energy and the fintech sector, The RuPay card, a key component of India's digital public infrastructure, is accepted in the UAE since August 2019, while from July 2023, the rupee was being accepted for transactions at Dubai airports. India and UAE also operationalized a rupee dirham settlement system. The Indian Oil Corporation made a rupee payment to the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company for crude oil exports. So this is on the fintech level. What is fintech? Fintech is basically financial technology. On one side, what we are making use of is the RuPay card. So the RuPay card, like the Visa card, like the MasterCard, is also being accepted in United Arab Emirates, and at the same time, India, what does it do? India imports a lot of oil, which means we import petrol, we also import diesel, so on and so forth. At this particular moment, we have to come to a conclusion that because of the bilateral relationship which is increased over a period of time, because we have best relationship among the leaders of both the countries, we've also been able to convince United Arab Emirates that we will be paying in terms of rupee as well. So for all the imports, energy imports that we are making payments in terms of the rupee payment as well. So for the energy that we are importing from another country, we are not paying in terms of dollar, but we are paying in terms of a rupee payment to the Abu Dhabi National Company for the crude oil import. The United Arab Emirates is also India's trusted partner in energy security, being the only nation from the region which has strategic oil reserves stored in India. An agreement was signed in India Strategic Petroleum Reserves Limited and Abu Dhabi National Oil Company to invest in strategic crude oil storage facility in Mangaluru with an initial investment of $400 million. So what do we understand by strategic oil reserves? Let me simplify this process for you. Let's assume for a moment that for a particular period of time, there is the global economy which is not working right. For example, if I have to take you back to the year 1990s, what exactly happened? There was Kuwait war that was brewing world over. We were not able to import oil. At that particular moment, since we were not able to import oil from the Western Asian countries, what India had to do? India had to import oil from some other country like Malaysia. At this particular moment, since we were importing oil from Malaysia, the inflation increased. We were not able to pay for the energy reserves that we were importing, and India's exchange rate was also decreasing, which means to say the amount of money that we had in our exchange was also decreasing. Foreign reserves was decreasing over a period of time. This ultimately meant that India did not have enough money to pay another country. Now what if we are coming up with an alternative? What is this alternative? That we will have energy reserves stored in case of an eventuality. Let's say for example, in Mangaluru right now, we have the strategic oil reserve. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section, we have two other places where we have saved oil reserves. Which are these two other places is what you have to put on the comment section. So what happens in the strategic oil reserves? Let's say for example, there is an eventuality at the global level. For example, we have Russia invading Ukraine, or for example, we have United States of America invading another country. There can be examples as well. In all such examples, if at all we are not able to import the oil from the Gulf or from any other country, we need a strategic location, we need a strategic oil reserves which should be able to fulfill our energy needs. For example, if we are not able to import oil from West Asia, we are not able to import oil from Russia, for example, in that particular case, even if we are not able to bring oil from another country, we should have so much of oil that we would be able to run our country for about 1 month or for 2 months. So storing of this oil is what is called as the strategic oil reserve, that despite we not able to get the oil from another country, we need to continue with the operations. So storing of this petrol or diesel or the fuel for about 1 month, even if we are not able to bring the oil from another country, is what is called a strategic oil reserves. So we have Mangaluru, where one of the strategic oil reserve is present, and India, United Arab Emirates have invested in it. So they have made an initial investment of as much as $400 million. That is the amount of bonhomie that we have between India and United Arab Emirates. That apart, India has also increased its relationship with United Arab Emirates, that we have also been invited as a keynote speaker in the OIC. We have the Islamic Republic, so many countries come together. The OIC is where many organization of Islamic countries come together, where only Islamic countries are allowed. But the UAE had hosted the OIC foreign ministers meeting in 2019, where India's external affairs back minister back then, Sushma Swaraj, was also invited as well. This is despite opposition by Pakistan. Earlier in 2018, India was the guest of honor country at the Abu Dhabi festival, the UAE's annual cultural festival. During his visit to the UAE in August 2019, Mr. Modi was conferred the UAE's top civilian honor, the Order of the Zayed. That is the relationship what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been able to mold. Within the region, both countries are in close coordination and part of number of important groupings such as I2U2, that is the West Asian Quad comprising India, Israel, United Arab Emirates and UAE. The UAE is also part of India Middle East European Economic Corridor, which was signed in G20 summit in Delhi, and the corridor aims to connect India to Europe across the Arabian Peninsula and is potential rival to China's Belt and Road Initiative. So because we've been able to establish this relationship, what we have done is increase the trust between both the countries. So this article goes on to say a privileged strategic partnership without a Gulf. So there is no differences. There are not much differences between India and the United Arab Emirates, and as a result, we've been able to increase our relationship between India and UAE is what is this article all about. I'm sorry, I'm drinking water. Kindly excuse me. Now let's look into the next article. This article says how women can be represented in politics. We recently have discussed, and we've discussed in couple of our CNA videos as well, daily news analysis, that we have the women representation bill that was passed in the parliament, which basically means about 33% of the seats will be reserved for the women in parliament as well as in the assembly. Let's assume for a moment that this particular bill is not present and they have to contest only on the basis of merit. Will they be able to survive? No, says this article. If you look into the data, Rajasthan has 200 assembly seats, but polling was held in 199 seats. The BJP fielded 20 women candidates, of which 9 managed to enter the assembly. The success rate of women candidates of the BJP remained 45%, which was much lower than the success rate of the party's male candidates, which is 60%. The picture with regard to Congress candidates was not very different. Of the total 28 candidates of the Congress, 9 got elected, so the winning percentage is about 32%. The absolute number of women who were elected to the Rajasthan Assembly was the same for the BJP and the Congress, though in percentage terms, the success rate was higher for women candidates of the BJP compared to those of the Congress. What is this article speaking about? The article here goes on to say that if at all there is no reservation that is given at the assembly level and in the parliamentary level, then women would not be able to contest the elections. That is because of couple of reasons that are present. One is because the political parties may not select a women candidate. Political parties by their very nature are only focusing on the winnability of the candidate. It does not matter to the political party whether the candidate is a woman or the candidate is a man. All that the political party is looking for is whether a candidate, irrespective of the gender, is able to win the elections or not. But the presumption that the political parties hold right now is that it is only men who would be able to win the elections and not the women. So because of the perception, because of that particular viewpoint, because of that idea that they have, political parties usually prefer men over the women. That is the primary reason as to why these political parties would not give a ticket to a woman over a man. That's the first issue. So the major issue is, if at all there is no reservation, 33% reservation that is given to the women in the parliamentary or in the assembly elections, political parties may not give tickets to the women. That happens to be the first issue. Second is with respect to the voters' preference. Voters also genuinely believe that women would not be able to do justice when it comes to the political party and its elections. Why? That is because there is a strong gender roles that is assigned by the people because of the patriarchal mindset that they hold. In fact, women also believe that it is men who would be able to do justice. According to a couple of articles as well, they go on to believe that if at all there is a work that has to be done, for example, they require, let's say for example, they would require at the time of the elections, they would also promise that they would be doing so and so. But when it comes to the winnability and when it comes to the getting work done, it is far men would be able to get things done in a much better way than the women, is what even the women presume. For example, if at all they require some subsidies, or for example they require some funds for tailoring, or for example they require some kind of subsidy for the electricity in the agricultural domain, if at all it is the men who are present in the helm of the affairs, they would be able to get it done either through the financial power or through the muscle power, so on and so forth. So what even the women feel is that it is the men who would be able to do, according to few surveys in the remote corners. So first is the voter preference. The voters basically believe that women would not be able to do justice because they do not have the muscle power, they do not have the money power, they may have to depend on the men of their family, and at the same time there is a specific gender role that is assigned. What are these gender roles? For example, if it is a woman has to take care of the house. If it is a woman, she has to take care of the children. If it is the woman, she has to take care of the family. When she has been given a designated role according to the so-called idea and a perception that has been brought about by number of years as well as centuries, she should be only restricted to the house and she should not be given all these other responsibilities. That's a presumption, that's a way that they are drawing a conclusion. So basically political parties do not want to give them the tickets, and at the same time they have voters preference who would only want to vote for the men because they basically believe that men can get works done as soon as possible, and there are strong gender roles, traits conditioned by their gender. Men will have to do so and so job, they should not be doing this. Women should be doing so and so job, they should not be doing this. So a clear-cut understanding that women should do only so and so role is also being designated to the women as well. And at the same time, when we speak about the muscle power, let's say for example there is a particular issue that is happening in a particular pocket of a village. If it is the men, they would be able to use their muscle power and ultimately bring an end to such issue. The women would not be able to do so, is the presumption and a conclusion that the political parties as well as the voters believe. So voters basically believe if it is men, they would have their henchmen, they would be able to prevent such an activity, but if it is the women, they would not be able to do so, is an assumption. Added to it, when it comes to the leadership skills, it is presumed that men have more leadership skills when it comes to the legislative business or when it comes to the executive business, and more leadership skills are with the men than with the women. And that is another reason as to why political parties may not give these women the tickets, and at the same time because the people prefer men over the women is what the study says, and according to these there are more leadership skills that a man carries than a woman. This is wrong, this is completely wrong, but the assumption and the presumption and the viewpoint is that men have more leadership skills, which ultimately draws to a conclusion that the legislative competence is more for the men than the women. And finally, it's more to do with the campaigning financing as well. Let's say for example, political parties also basically believe that if at all there is a man who is contesting election and there are women who are contesting elections, men would be able to bring more finances as well. So once these elections are started off, it is more about finances, how well you are able to implement a particular program, how well you are able to reach out to the program. What you will require is pamphlets, and you will also require people canvassing for you. If it is men, they would be somehow be able to arrange the finances for their campaigning, but if it is the women, they may again have to rely on the men. So because the campaign financing is more focused on bringing money. It is the men who would be able to bring the finances, a woman would not be able to do so. So keeping all these parameters into picture, if at all the women are not provided the reservation at the parliamentary level and at the assembly level, they would not be able to win the elections are some of the arguments. So in order to ensure that they are provided the required amount of support and winnability, reservation is very keen and important, says this article. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says 2022 saw the most prisoners on death row in nearly 2 decades. What is this article speaking about? This article here is speaking about death sentences or the capital punishment. When we speak about the Indian Penal Code, we have one of the sections which speaks about different kinds of punishment. Section 53 of the Indian Penal Code 1860 prescribes 5 kinds of punishments. Which are these? One is the death penalty, second is life imprisonment, third is imprisonment, fourth is forfeiture of the property, fifth is the fine. So the first one happens to be the death penalty or the capital punishment. What is this death penalty? Death penalty or capital punishment is snatching away the life of an individual by the procedure established by law, which basically means that person whosoever has committed a heinous activity or an offense will be killed, or his life would be taken away by the state by hanging him until death. So after all the due process is established, if we are able to prove that this particular person accused is the one who has done that particular crime beyond all reasonable doubts, in that case death penalty can be imposed on this individual. So when it comes to the death penalty, what exactly happens? We have the Sessions Court which would be able to impose death penalty. Can the Magistrate Court do that? No, the Magistrate Court does not have the power. It is only the Sessions Court and the higher courts which would be able to impose the death penalty. So it is the Court of Session which would be able to impose the death penalty. And remember, from the preliminary examination point of view, once the death penalty has been imposed by the Sessions Court, the same will also have to be upheld by the High Courts as well. So if at all the High Court does not uphold it, then in that particular case, death penalty cannot be imposed on an individual. So basically, if at all the Session Court feels that it is this person who's committed the heinous activity, if this heinous activity is upheld, it can impose a death penalty. And this death penalty that is given by the Sessions Court will also have to be upheld by the High Courts in the relevant states as well. So when we speak about death penalty, remember, the Supreme Court has always asked the High Court as well as the Court of Sessions to look into the mitigating factors. Why? Because death penalty should not be a norm. It should be an exception. It should happen only in the rarest of the rare issues. So only when you consider the mitigating factors, that is when death penalty has to be imposed. For example, we have 2 types of circumstances. One is aggravating circumstances. The second is happening to do with the mitigating circumstance. What is this mitigating circumstance? Mitigating circumstance basically happens to be, let's say for example, a person has committed a murder. This person has committed the murder not because he's planned it, but because it happened in a fit of a rage. Or for example, this person is from a poor background. He does not have the socio-economic advantage. He does not know what is life all about. Because of the environment that he is brought up in, because his father or his immediate surrounding is filled with people who see that murdering is okay, if at all he is brought up in such an environment, then this person might also commit an offense as well. So what are the mitigating factors? The mitigating factors is that it is not a cold-blooded murder, it was not planned, he happens to come from a poor society, he does not know the value systems of the life, he is not gone to the school as well in order to ensure that he is able to make some quick money, he has done it for the very first time, he happens to be not a person who commits offenses every now and then, he happens to be a person who is not a serial killer per se. If at all he falls in any of these categories, the Sessions Court and subsequently High Court will have to take keen observation of such things and ultimately can impose him with life imprisonment and not death penalty. So death penalty or the capital punishment, if at all it is being given by the Sessions Court, the same will also have to be upheld by the High Court. That is to do with death penalty. What is life imprisonment? Life imprisonment basically is for the remaining rest of the life of that individual, that person will be behind the bars. So generally there is a presumption that if at all it is life imprisonment, it is about 14 years of imprisonment behind the bars in the prison. No, life imprisonment means for the rest of the life of that individual, this individual will be behind the bars and he will not be allowed to enter into the society. Then we have imprisonment. This can be broadly categorized into rigorous imprisonment and simple imprisonment. So in imprisonment, it can be said that this person will be thrown behind bars for about 7 years, he will be thrown behind bars for about 10 years, so on and so forth. Then we have forfeiture of the property. What exactly happens? A person, let's say for example, has committed an economic offense. In the economic offense, this person basically has taken away the property of another individual, or he's cheated another individual. So this person's property will be forfeited and it will be sold in the public auction, and whatever money that is derived will be paid back to the person who is the victim in this particular case. So what is forfeiture of the property? Taking away his property, selling it, so that once it is liquidated, this money can be given back to the victim. And finally, imposition of fine can also be done. These are the 5 kinds of punishment that we have. And when it comes to the punishment, we have 3 kinds of punishment. One is what is called as retribution. Second is rehabilitation. Third happens to be deterrent. What is retribution? Retribution basically means an eye for an eye. For example, let's say there is a person who is actually hit another person. He slapped another person. So because this person accused has hit or slapped another individual, that individual will also have the right, or the state will also have the right to slap this individual who is the accused. Or for example, this individual who's committed this particular crime has hit the other individual, has chopped off the leg of another individual. So this victim has suffered a grave offense, and as a result, the accused, whosoever has committed this particular crime, his leg will also be chopped off as well. So what is retribution? For every action there will be equivalent reaction, and such a reaction will be equivalent as well. If a person is being slapped, this person, whosoever has committed this crime, will be slapped as well. In case the person commits, let's say for example, he chops off the finger of another individual, that individual who is the accused, his fingers will also be chopped off as well. That is what is called as retribution. An eye for an eye, a slap for a slap, that is the principle of retribution. Then what we have is rehabilitation. What is rehabilitation? By birth, every individual is not a criminal. There would be circumstances why an individual would have committed a certain crime. So understanding this person that he has not done it willfully, but against the circumstances, and making sure that this person is able to rehabilitate him, which means that his thought process is changed, that saying that this person has committed the crime not because he planned it, but it happened in a fit of a rage. So there is rehabilitative mode, changing his thoughts, so that once he is reintroduced back into the society, he is able to lead a normal life. So first is retribution, second is rehabilitative, so that this prison will bring a change in the person's thought, and once he is back into the society, he is able to find a foot in the society. And finally, the last happens to be deterrence, which basically means preventing another individual from committing a crime. So imposing a person with a punishment so that the other person is prevented from doing it. So let's say for example, deterrence is basically that particular form of punishment which will ensure that the third party, for example, there is a murder that a person has committed. So this person is thrown behind bars. His liberty is snatched away. He is not allowed to enter into the society. He is made to toil day in and day out in that particular prison within the 4 walls of the prison. So another person, even if he wants to commit a crime, he will not do so. Why? Because it is acting as a deterrent. So the government has imposed a certain kind of punishment. So making sure that a person does not commit a crime, acting as a deterrent because someone else is imposed with a punishment, is what is called as deterrence. So in punishment, we have 3 kinds. One is retribution, second is rehabilitative, the third happens to be deterrence. So this article currently goes on to say that when it comes to death penalty, there have been a drop when it comes to death penalty, primarily because we have the High Court which is looking into the mitigating factors and then ultimately imposing them with life imprisonment, and they're not giving death penalty. So the Supreme Court has clarified in the past that what we have to keenly look at is the mitigating factors. If the mitigating factor is not considered, then in that case it is travesty of justice. So kindly consider it, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is important from your environment and ecology perspective and biodiversity. What does it speak about? This speaks about brumation. It can be very important from your preliminary examination point of view. So they may ask you what is hibernation. They might also ask you what is brumation. So they can give you a question and give you four statements, and you have to select one among the best statement. So what is this brumation basically? This is the name to describe a period of dormancy or slow activity in the reptiles. So we have hibernation in the mammals. So similar to what happens in mammals, if at all energy is being conserved by that particular species for a brief period of time, that is what is called as hibernation. But when it comes to the reptiles, in that case, it is what is called as brumation. It typically occurs during the colder months when temperatures drop and food becomes scarce. What exactly happens? During a specific period of time, the reptiles would not be able to find their prey. During this period, they will not have enough reserves of the prey, and as a result, during this period, they have to conserve their energy, and during this period, because they do not have enough prey for their sustenance, they basically enter into a mode of brumation. So reptiles enter into a state of brumation to conserve energy and survive these advanced environmental conditions. During brumation, reptiles may retreat into the underground burrows, rock crevices or other sheltered areas where temperatures are relatively more stable. Their metabolism slows significantly, allowing them to go weeks or even months without eating. So they would be able to conserve the energy, they would be able to save the energy, they would be able to live without eating by entering this mode of brumation. This period of reduced activity allows reptiles to conserve energy and minimize their resource requirements, and researchers have observed instances of brumation in various reptilian species across habitat. So species include turtles, painted turtles which burrow into the mud at the bottom of the ponds, or the snakes or the lakes. Then we have snakes which seek refuge in underground dens or caves, while lizards may hide under rocks or within vegetation. And brumation is crucial for reptiles to survive cold climes and endure challenging conditions until they can re-emerge to feed and reproduce in more favorable climes. These are some of the important parameters that you have to remember from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next article for the day. This article says the pattern of global warming are more important than its levels. So this article is finally speaking about the climate change manifestations, global warming. So this article currently goes on to say that we have this 1.5 degree increase. If at all there is 1.5 degree increase of the temperature, this will have large scale impact on the earth. How did we arrive at it? What this article says is that this was a general consensus that was built during the understanding between the European countries. So no one has been able to fully explain the patterns of warming associated with the Earth's surface exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius. But they go on to say that because we have had discussions, because in the Paris Agreement we were able to come to a conclusion, 1.5 degrees centigrade was finally decided. If at all there is a increase beyond this, then what we will have is significant impact on the earth. So basically this article goes on to say that we have to stick to 1.5 degrees centigrade. If at all we are not sticking to this particular parameter, then what we will have is increase in the climate change manifestations. We will have more wildfires, we will have more drought-like conditions, we will have increasing cases of floods, and when such thing happens, we would not be able to take them upon. We will have economic losses, we will have loss to lives as well. So we have to keenly watch it and ensure that it does not increase beyond 1.5 degrees centigrade is what is this article all about. If you're liking these initiatives, please hit on the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also share it with your fellow aspirants as well. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.